It begins with a silence that swallowed 7 lives whole. This recording is an attempt to break that silence, to speak the names that were forgotten, and to tell the truth that was buried. My name is Evie Carter, and 20 years ago, at the Star of the Sea Abbey, 7 nuns vanished from the face of the earth. This is what really happened. September 14th, 1992, the storm was a beast, tearing at the cliffs of the Irish coast. Inside the Abbey, it should have been a sanctuary, but that night, the sanctity was fractured. The 7 women of the order, from the wise, aging Mother Superior Mary Elizabeth to the youngest, most zealous Sister Agnes, went through their nightly rituals. But there was a new tension in the air, a secret fervor. Sister Agnes did not sleep. In her small stone cell, she was not praying. She was waiting, listening, for in the chapel below, hidden within a great, locked chest known only to her and the Mother Superior, was an object they called the testimony. It was not a cross, not a relic of a saint. It was something far older and far more dangerous. And tonight, Sister Agnes believed she had unlocked its final secret. Agnes rose. She opened her door to a dark, empty hallway. But she was not alone. From the shadows behind her, a figure moved. A hand, gentle but firm, covered her mouth. She didn't scream. She didn't struggle. Her eyes, wide with a terrifying mix of fear and triumph, simply closed. She was the first. By dawn, the storm had passed, leaving a world washed clean and deceptively peaceful. A local fisherman, Sean O'Malley, arrived with the weekly delivery. He found the great oak door unlocked. The silence inside was profound. Not a holy silence, but an empty one. He called out. No answer. He found the dormitory beds neatly made, untouched. The refectory's 7 bowls of porridge, cold and congealed. 7 cups of tea, untouched.
His heart hammering, Sean entered the chapel. It was here the full dread settled in. The nuns were gone, and the great chest. The chest was gone too, but that wasn't all. Scratched into the stone floor where it had stood, as if by a frantic, desperate nail, was a symbol, a circle, bisected by a single vertical line, an ancient, watchful eye, the oculus. That's where the official report ended, a cold case, an ecclesiastical curiosity. For 20 years, that's all it was to me, a journalist, until the anniversary loomed. My editor wanted a fluff piece. I smelled a story rotting in the dark. I went to Ireland, to the village of Cochrane, a place that still lived in the long shadow of that clifftop abbey. The locals were reticent, but the old fisherman, Sean, now bent and gray, would talk after a pint or two. His voice dropped to a whisper. They didn't just vanish, girl. They were unmade. The air in that place, it was wrong. Like after a lightning strike, and that mark on the floor, it felt like it was looking back at me. He told me of an 8th, a novice, a woman named Maeve, who had been meant to take her vows that very week. She left the order after the disappearance. Shattered, she lived now in a cottage on the edge of the moors. I found her there, a woman cultivating a life of quiet routine among her bees and her garden, a fortress of normalcy against the past. I have mourned them. I don't need you to dig up their bones for a headline. But I can be persuasive. I appealed not to the journalist, but to the woman who had also been left behind. I asked her the question that had haunted me from the start. If they were gone, why did it feel like something had been left behind? Reluctantly, she agreed to take me to the Abbey. The air inside was thick with 2 decades of dust and silence. It was a time capsule of dread. Maeve walked through the halls like a ghost herself. In the chapel, she fell to her knees, her fingers tracing that damned symbol on the floor. The oculus, Sister Agnes became obsessed with it. She'd found old texts in the library, pre-Christian manuscripts hidden behind the theology. She said the abbey was built on a ley line, a place of power. She said the testimony was a key, not to heaven, but to a door behind heaven. As she spoke, my phone's flashlight glinted off something in the crack of the stone, a tiny sliver of wood, dark and ancient. I pocketed it. That night, I emailed a photo to a professor of archaeology. His reply was swift and electrifying. The wood was from the 9th century, and the symbol, it was a Celtic gate mark representing a threshold between worlds. This wasn't a holy retreat, it was the site of a ritual. Our investigation had just begun, and already we had attracted FLIs. A black sedan arrived in the village. Out stepped a man named Alistair Finch, impeccably dressed, unnervingly calm. He claimed to be from the Vatican's Cultural Heritage Department.
Miss Carter, the church prefers to let its lost children rest. There are truths that can damage the faith of the simple. I urge you to reconsider your project. A threat, wrapped in silk. It was the best confirmation I could have asked for. We weren't just uncovering a secret. We were trespassing on someone else's territory. Meave, now as invested as I was, led me to the Abbey's forgotten library. A damp cellar room, there, behind a loose stone. We found Mother Superior's journal. The entries started normally. Then, they began to change. They spoke of Sister Agnes's growing influence, her midnight studies, her charismatic certainty. Agnes says the testimony is not an object of worship, but a tool, a lens. She believes that with the correct ritual, at the apex of the storm's power, the 7 of us can act as a conduit, can open the oculus and peer into the mind of God. The final entry, dated the night of the storm, was written in a shaky, frantic hand. I am afraid this is not faith. It is alchemy, it is demand. Not supplication, but Agnes is sure. She has the sequence. The final prayer. We will proceed. God forgive us. We will proceed. A sequence. A final prayer. It wasn't a prayer at all. It was an incantation. Meave remembered something then. A place Sister Agnes would go to be alone, not in the Abbey, but beneath it, the sea caves. At low tide, we found it, a narrow fissure in the cliff face, hidden from view. Inside, a small, natural grotto. And there, carved into the wall, was the oculus, and tucked into a crevice, wrapped in wax cloth, was Sister Agnes's final testament, her personal diary. We weren't alone. We grabbed the diary and ran. The sound of pursuit echoing in the caves behind us, back at Meave's cottage, hearts pounding. We opened it. The pages were a descent into madness. It laid out the entire, horrifying truth. The testimony was a pagan artifact, a psychic battery designed to channel the Earth's energy. Agnes's ritual was a hijacking of that power. The saints waited for God's grace. We will not wait. We will take it. 7 souls, 7 points of the seal. We will not knock on the door. We will break it down. The final page was the most chilling. The door does not open out. It opens in. We are not leaving. We are inviting. She wasn't trying to ascend to heaven. She was trying to pull something down. Or in. It was Alistair Finch, but the polite facade was gone. His face was grim. His men surrounding the cottage. You have no idea what you are playing with. They are not missing. They are contained. The ritual didn't kill them, it worked, but not as she intended. It fused them. Their consciousness, their life force, became the lock on a door they should never have touched. And you, with your clumsy digging, are breaking the seal. He wasn't from the Vatican, he was from a secret society. An order of guardians tasked for centuries with keeping the testimony and its power dormant.
They had arrived at the Abbey that night to stop Agnes, but they were too late. They found the chest gone, the nuns gone, but the gate active, unstable, held shut only by the trapped, combined will of the 7 women. They took the chest, sealed the Abbey, and created the cover story of a disappearance to keep the world away. As he spoke, the wind outside began to howl. A storm was gathering, a perfect mirror of the one 20 years before. The energy at the Abbey was spiking, reacting to our discovery. To the diary, the containment was failing. Maeve looked at me, her eyes filled with a terrible resolve. We couldn't let them erase these women. We had to try to free them. We broke past Alistair and his men, into the teeth of the rising gale, and ran for the Abbey. The chapel was a vortex of wrongness. The air was thick, humming with a pressure that made my teeth ache. In the center of the room, the very light was bent, shimmering like a heat haze, and within that shimmer were the nuns, not as ghosts, but as echoes, trapped in a single, perpetual moment of their ritual, their faces frozen in a silent scream of ecstasy and terror. Alistair and his men stormed in behind us, armed with strange, technological devices. "It's too late for salvation. We have to sever the connection. It's the only way to save everyone else." Maeve stepped forward into the raging energy, and she began to speak, not the corrupted words of Agnes's ritual, but the true old prayers, the Lord's Prayer, the Hail Mary, prayers of comfort, of peace, of release. And I did the only thing I could. I spoke to them, not as nuns or victims or cosmic event. I spoke to them as women.
Mother Mary Elizabeth, your leadership is remembered. Sister Ruth, your hands that tended the garden. Sister Clementine, your voice that sang the hymns. Brigid, Patrick, Cecilia, and Agnes, your faith, even misplaced, was profound. You are not a lock. You are not a secret. You are 7 women. We see you. You are allowed to let go. You are allowed to rest. The shimmering light collapsed in on itself, then erupted in a wave of pure, calm, golden light. For one breathtaking second, the 7 nuns were solid, whole, and together. They turned to us, and on each of their faces was a look of profound, unimaginable peace, a silent thank you, and then they were gone. Not vanished. Released. The storm was over. Alistair Finch lowered his device, a look of stunned on his face. He simply nodded to us, and he and his men faded away into the dawn, their purpose fulfilled. We never found their bodies. There were no bones to bury. But a week later, a simple granite stone was placed in the village cemetery. It bears 7 names. Maeve and I, bound by a secret that can never be told, stood before it. I wrote my article. It told a story of a tragic, unresolved mystery. It won awards, but it was a lie. The truth is here, on this tape. The truth is that faith and obsession are a hair's breadth apart. The truth is that there are doors in the world that should never be opened, and that sometimes the greatest courage lies not in seeking answers, but in making peace with the silence. The 7th veil has been lifted. The story is over. For more stories like this, like, subscribe, and share. See you again in our next episode.